And good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. I'm Bill Dixon, Coach Mike Casey with us. And as always on Coach's Corner, we've got the head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach John Reutebuch. Coach, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Last night on the road at the Rock Pile at Plymouth, the Plymouth Rockies proved to have a set of weapons that Wawasee had a little bit of difficulty with. Fell to Plymouth last night. Talk a little bit about the game as you saw it.
Well, I think you have to talk about number 7.
Yeah.
He is a superb athlete, and they have, well, their record going in is 0-5, but they played some good teams along the way, and we knew when they put 30 points on Mishawaka, they were starting to put some things together. And watching film, they've rotated, I think, 4 different quarterbacks, including number 7, and they've had him out at receiver. And so we knew wherever he was going to be on the field, that's where the ball was going to go. And they lined him up at quarterback and, put a couple backs back there beside him. And he pretty much picked his holes and scrambled around until he found a hole, and we had a hard time tackling him. So from a defensive standpoint, he was there. Everything. He scored everything, and the one thing that he didn't score personally, he threw the pass for. So he was Mr. Everything for them. And, they had a couple other runs in there, but that's due to us focusing so much on number 7 because he was really making a lot of plays. Offensively, start the game off, 2 turnovers after we're moving the ball pretty well. And to be honest with you, both turnovers were unforced. An exchange and then a sneak that, to be honest with you, last year and this year all together, that's kind of been our best thing. Is we are very good on short yardage sneaks, and we're pretty big up front inside, and so it was just a pulling out too soon and bobbled the ball and went on the ground. And next thing you know, that's a second turnover, and they got the short field. And this is something we battled the last couple weeks, and we are putting our defense in a bad position. And so that's kind of how it went. We had a couple very promising drives deep in the territory, one of them all the way down to, well, we think we were in, but all the way down to where the tip of the ball was touching the white line as Plymouth was coming out. That's how close it was. And we just couldn't poke it in there. And so, we moved the ball well. We're still struggling a little bit with our running game, but we moved the ball very well. Special teams did a pretty good job. We had good field position, punt. We had a fake punt that was called back. That was a first down. And those little mistakes they're just killing us right now.
I think last night one of the things going into it, we were talking with some individuals up top in the press box, and they were all kind of talking about, hey, who are we going to see tonight in the sense of their team? Because like you had said, number 7 was receiver a few weeks ago. They stuck him back in the backfield. They had some success against Mishawaka. I think he was over 200, or he was about 150, 160 yards on the ground. I think he had 100 in the air. And sure enough, he came out. I mean, you calling the game last night, you could hear they had 2 backs beside him in a shotgun normal formation. Then he had 2 backs to his left specifically, and then there were 4 backs. It almost reminded me of the T when we had beaten them on 2013, 52-35. The next week they went to a T and were very successful. So I could see after that, like, they just wanted to run the football. And the thing about it is that he had a good enough arm to put the ball in the air. It wasn't as if he was throwing ducks. I mean, he put the ball spot on. That individual just kind of floated on it, in the end zone. And so you knew what they were going to do. You knew they were going to run the ball. When you got 6'1", 6'2", 195, I mean, it was 195, 195, 195. And we tackled pretty well from the get-go, but they just kept leaning on us. It kept falling forward. And big plays. He was a heck of an athlete making big plays.
He is strong and deceptively fast. And, there were times when we had him squared up in the hole, hit him, and fell off, and he took off and ran.
More than fast, he was quick.
Yeah.
He could go from 0 to 60 at the snap of your fingers.
Absolutely. And, you could tell that in the way he ran. He had confidence that, he can get wherever he wanted to in a heartbeat. We even had an instance where our linebacker had part of his uniform in his hand.
I believe I saw him throw that off of the
Yes,
sideline. Is
yes,
that right? Okay.
yes,
I wasn't
yes.
sure what he had.
Yes.
But he threw it on the sideline, and one of you guys had to pick it up. I was like, interesting.
Yeah, so he finished the game with over 200 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, and like I said, he had a hand in every score personally, and we just did not do a good job of stopping him.
So we start off on the 33. We get the football. They defer. We get it. First drive's at the 33. Second drive, I believe, is at the 44. 3 plays in, we turn the ball over. Next drive, within 5 plays, 5 offensive plays, we've got 2 turnovers. So they take the ball inside, deep in our territory. They score. Same situation. We turn the ball back over. They score. So we're already in a 14-0
Right.
hole because
Right.
they went for a 2-point conversion on the first one, didn't get to the second one. And so right there alone, and that was kind of the conversation up there we were talking about. They had so many turnovers in the past weeks, they couldn't figure out who they were, and they kept saying up top, well, now that we haven't turned the ball over, we can actually see what we're doing. And that same thing, if we're moving the football, we had nice pass play, kept saying it up top, nice pitch, nice catch, easy 5-yard out, easy 3-yard stop, whatever it was, and then we'd hurt ourselves. And
Yep.
that was such a, you find success, and then it's just, instead of taking 2 steps forward, we take 10 steps back, and it was so difficult to put a drive together. And then when we do, we get down to the one, and I would concur, I would agree. I'm pretty sure I felt like with the push he was in there, but we've seen how that's been in the past where apparently I guess the ball went across the line.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it hit touchdown.
We needed a pylon camera there shooting down to replay it and show it. But, you just got to do a better job. You got to not leave it to doubt like that. And we should have been able to punch it in better. And like you said, we had promising drives, several promising drives that, we get a huge penalty. We turned the ball over the first 2 drives. Things like that set you back. We gave up a sack. Certain things like that, it makes it hard for you to make the most of your offensive opportunities. And right now we're struggling with that. We're really struggling with scoring the football. Defensively, at times we look like the good defense that we can have, and at other times we struggle. But, when you got number 7 back there, he's going to make a lot of people look like they're struggling. And we saw that on tape. We knew what he brings to the table. And you mentioned about turnovers. They had turnovers all over the place up until this game. They had no turnovers against us, I
they
believe.
were -16 in the takeaway.
Now, there was a couple opportunities to get a turnover. The ball was on the ground a couple times. We didn't get it. The ball was in our defensive back's hands, and we didn't get it. And
there was another one where I'm pretty sure I thought I saw him step on the back of the end zone. He threw
Absolutely.
up an infield fly, and one of our guys, no one around him, just dropped it. And on the radio, we said, it's just unfortunate. You have to come up with that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who knows what he does with that? I mean, it was about at the 15-yard
Well,
line.
I mean, if he dropped
just falls
immediately,
down with it.
I mean,
we're
you're
at
inside
the
the red
30.
zone.
Yeah, we're already there. And our guys upstairs were, screaming. He just ran out the back of the end zone, and they
the
didn't call it.
The umpire walked up to him, kind of stood. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's standing where he stepped out. Maybe he's covering it up. I don't know. But anyway.
But, you got to play through that.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're on the road, I'm, not always, but that's part of the game. Sometimes you got to overcome some of those calls that happen. And, we're not going to sit here and make excuses that the referees took the game away from us, because there's a whole lot more to the game. But, man, some of those situations are crucial. And when you got momentum and you got, when we came out the second half, the sideline was electric. We were just marching the ball right down the field. Even when we didn't get in, the kids were excited that, hey, we got them on. It can't be any closer to the goal line. Let's get a safety. That's their mindset. And we did a really good job. And then, you don't make that call. And then, they get a quick trap play that goes for a first down. It was like, letting the air out of the balloon.
I think it was about a 20-yard run, and then a couple plays later, it was a 77-yard scamper.
Yeah.
Well, let's not underestimate the pressure that Plymouth must have felt themselves under. Plymouth is a town that has had a lot of success in football. They're coming into the homecoming game 0-5. They have the weapon, Reichert. They're hearing about it in town. They're hearing about it in school. we talk about that kind of pressure for ourselves, but it exists for the other team too.
Absolutely.
And what you may have seen there was simply that balloon pop as well.
Yes.
That pressure may have created a week's worth of high intensity practice that presented some better fundamental football, because you noticed this last night, Michael. Their open field tackling was outstanding. I mean, that's obviously something they have just drilled into their helmets. And if you've got a team that you're against that can handle the fundamental of open field tackling that well defensively, you're going to have to deal with multi-play drives. Now it's going to be more difficult for you.
Well, tackling, a lot of tackling, obviously there's good technique, and you got to teach good technique, but a lot of it's the will of the young man to want to do whatever it takes to get the guy down. And I have to commend Plymouth's coaching staff, because they did not play like a team that's 0-5 and trying to find themselves and trying to overcome a lot of things. And you're right. I mean, I think they came into this game thinking, we got to right the ship. And, that's kind of where we're at. And we came into this game, we got to right the ship. And, they were more successful at it than we were. They definitely, were focused and had a purpose, and I felt at times we were there, and at other times we were not there, and that's what we got to get back to. If we come out with a purpose and a focus, all week we were working on, concentration and execution, and when kids made mental errors in practice, we did up downs. When kids loafed in practice, we did up downs, and you need that constant effort. And right now, we're not getting it on every play. And we got to be opportunistic. When we have an interception in our hands or the ball's being kicked around, we got to take advantage of that. And, we had some advantages in the special teams. And, we had good field position and we executed some things. But, you get a first down out of a fake punt and it comes back because we're not lined up correctly. We put a bloop on them and they drop it and kick it around a little bit and we don't recover it. They give us good field position on kickoff return, and we turn the ball over. Those little things start to add up, and they're not supporting you in winning the football game. It's just kind of there, and so you got to take advantage of what the other team gives you.
I think we talked about last week too. It's accountability. You talked about concentration, doing up downs, making sure that it's almost dialing in, focus and pinpoint on what we need to do. But that's where we need to start to see the leadership of our seniors step up even more. I mean, we're going into week 7. Yes, week 7. And at this point in time, if you haven't figured it out now,
right?
Like you can do everything you can in practice being on the field, but in the game or at the game, you can't be on the field. And so that's where you need that leadership. And I think at times last night we saw that. And at times last night we did not see that.
And we're going to talk about how that leads into a better win for Wawasee next week in just a little bit. We'll be back with Coach's Corner here on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 92.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Joined by the head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach John Reutebuch. And John, you've got a special guest with you today.
Yes, we have Eric Leffler, the head of our Pee Wee program. Eric took over a couple of years ago from Chris Cotton, but he's been a part of the program for several years and doing a great job down there. And how you doing this morning, Eric?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me this morning.
Yes. Eric and our middle school programs are vital to the improvement of the football program here at Wawasee. And one of our things that we would want to do is point out the people that build our program. And like a good house, you build it from the foundation up, and it starts with this Pee Wee program. With the COVID issues, we've had to adjust our program a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to send out to Eric is how we dealt with the COVID issues and what we did this year to try to give the kids some kind of football experience.
Yeah, so this year is a little unfortunate for our kids and our community. We had to cancel our regular season due to COVID. there were a lot of new restrictions in place, being that we were the only contact sport deemed in the state of Indiana, and so we had to do a lot more things than most other sports, as you're well aware of, right? So a lot of things went into that. We're part of the Northern Indiana Youth Football League, which consists of ourselves, Warsaw, Elkhart, Tippy Valley, Triton, Fairfield, several other schools as well. And a couple of those larger areas are our Warsaw and our Elkhart schools. And as we know, Elkhart County was really having some struggles there with COVID and the numbers. And they canceled their season. They consist of about a third of our teams in the league. And then down in Warsaw, we had Mayor Thallimer said that they could not travel in or out of the city of Warsaw for football. So that's another probably quarter of our league or another third of our league. And so we're really down to very few schools and teams that we can compete against. And so then all the other schools start talking, and at the end of the day, we decided that it was safest for the communities and the kids to find alternatives, right? And so we don't have enough kids in our program to compete in-house the way Warsaw was able to. We've got 60 to 75 kids. They've got 200 kids, right? And so
Right.
A lot of disparity there. And so we came up with an alternative, and that alternative was to do a 4-week skills camp, non-contact. We could do our social distancing. Kids could still work on their football skills, catching the ball, throwing the ball, footwork, kicking. And that went really well. We had several kids that came out with some excitement, and we were able to do that and have some fun. So the really neat thing about that was that we had a lot of alumni from the Warsaw or the Wawasee program come through to help with that. So guys like Kyle Clevenger, who kicked it at Trine, he came out and he specifically focused on kicking with our kids. We had kids from last year, Austin Baker and LaShawn Morris came out, worked with our wide receiver and cornerback drills, really got the kids excited because they're young and energetic and they can do the things with them that some of us older guys might not be able to do. And so the kids really enjoyed having them there. Austin Parrish, who played at Defiance, he came out, he helped with our linemen, was able to do a lot of that. So I think that's how we build the program, right?
Absolutely.
Is to get those guys to come back, to give back to the program they grew up in. If we can build that up, that's where the foundation begins. So.
Excellent. Making a positive out of a lot of people look at a negative situation, and I think you've done a great job with that of building those fundamentals. And bottom line is, kids got to have fun doing it, and they want to keep playing and keep participating in football. And those young guys help out with that so much, and their enthusiasm and everything. So that's great. Now, I believe you also encourage kids that even though we just had a clinic, to play football, flag football for our local LYC program, Lakeland Youth Center.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we were able to schedule it out, we did our 4-week skills camp. We ended on a Thursday, and that very next week is when flag started. And I think that all of our kids, maybe 5% didn't play flag, but the rest of them did play flag, and so that was able to still get them doing football activity and still getting out there. And sometimes flag is better for them from a foot work perspective. They can get out there and just be athletes and run around.
Right.
So it was really good for them to be able to do that still, and to build up some of that within the community as well. So.
Right. I used to work for Lakeland Youth Center and a part of that program, and talked to some of the people over there, and their numbers are way up on flag football. So at least we have the kids catching and throwing a football and getting some of those experiences, and hopefully soon we'll get back to our Pee Wee program the way we want to and like to practice it. So good. Another subject that we wanted to talk about this morning was a building project. It seems like it wasn't that long ago we had a building project. Schrock Field and the facilities there was going to be your own place where you can practice and play and have storage and all those good things. But some things have changed recently. You want to speak to what's going on with the new facility and what all is happening with that?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we're very fortunate to have the people in the community doing some things for us to give us this new facility that we're going to have out on Kern Road. And, once it's done, I think it's going to be fantastic for our kids. We're going to have a permanent football field there with permanent stands, our own facility basically with baseball fields right there with it. We just moved into Schrock Field, I believe it was 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we were excited about that, right, to have our own storage. We weren't trailering things from the high school to the middle school and back and forth and doing all this stuff. We had our home, and we had some fundraisers there. Dick Pelletier did an amazing job raising funds for that, and so our field is named after Dick, and that's going to stay that way when we move. We're going to make sure that field name stays there, because we owe so much to him and Larry Martindale and the guys that really put the Schrock field together.
Right.
And so now Pollywood is doing great things in our community, right? They're expanding. They need more room to continue to expand. They're going to bring 400 more jobs to the community, or whatever that number is going to be. And so it's good for the community and good for the school systems to have that. And so they're working with the town to put this new facility in place along Kern Road there that I think will be better than our current facility. And hopefully that is our actual permanent facility, unlike the Schrock field that we thought was. But there might be a year of limbo here, right? So we don't know that field is going to be ready for next fall's season. And so we might have to have a year where we go back to practicing here at the high school and playing games at the middle school, whatever that may look like. So a little bit of challenge up front, short term, but long term, I think it's going to be fantastic for our community and our program and our kids.
Yeah, it sounds like the facility is going to be outstanding. It's going to be just around the corner from the high school, so we can slip over there, and we could even send some kids over there to help out when we can, as far as instructing, because that's so important for young kids. They look at those older kids in the football uniforms on Friday nights, and they want to do that someday, and that's what we want to build in our program. So looking forward to that facility and what that brings to our Pee Wee program. Can you talk a little bit about the general? I know you got social media and you do all that stuff and put it out there, but talk a little bit about our Pee Wee program, the age groups we have, and how each age group is set up, because they're not exactly the same as like a high school football team is put together. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. Yeah. So, again, we're part of the Northern Indiana Youth Football League and part of USA Football's Heads Up football initiative. And so all of our coaching staff has to go through background checking and through certification through USA Football. They're not allowed to work with the kids without those two things being done. And so we're really looking at the safety of the kids, teaching them. I heard you guys talk on the first segment about tackling skills and really learning the fundamentals of tackling in a safe way, heads up, doing things differently than we might have been teaching 30, 40 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So safety is the number one priority. And so because of that, we recently switched things around. We used to just have 2 age divisions. Now we've got 3. And so we've got our 7 and 8 year olds, or our first and second graders, playing against each other, 3rd and 4th grade, 5th and 6th grade. The first and second grade group is a modified tackle. They're still in full pads, but it's a smaller field. They're in full pads, 7-on-7, and so there's no weight restrictions on positions. Our coaches have done a really good job at that level. Ben Garden's my right-hand man with everything Pee Wee right now, and he does a great job with those kids, especially at that level, of just making sure every kid's playing every position and just being athletes and having fun. And what happens with that level is the kids get used to the contact. I think most injuries occur when someone shies away from contact. Mm-hmm. They're a little unsure of what's going to hapen. And so at that age, they're not hitting each other hard, right? They're giving each other hugs and seeing who falls down first, right? And so, but they're not shying away from that. So if we can start to build that up and give them more experience with that contact, by the time they're playing up at the high school, they should be used to all of it. They should be used to those pads. And so, again, safety first with that. Everything is just a condensed version. We move up to our 9 and 10 year olds, and they're at full 11-on-11, right? But there's weight restrictions in place as to who can carry the ball. Right. If you're over a certain weight limit, you have to be on the line, and that's unfortunate for some of these kids, because we got some really good athletes that are big kids that would be able to carry the ball and do well, but again, safety first, right? As we move up to that 11 and 12 year old, or that 5th and 6th grade level, those weight limits go up a little bit, so some of those kids can kind of start to carry the ball again. But overall, it's a nice progression into our middle school ball. Again, with our safety precautions, there's no blitzing, right? Stuff like that. It's hard enough for some of these high school kids to pick up a blitz, let alone a 9-year-old. Right. And so, linebackers have to stay back. They can't blitz. And so it's a really good program through our league, again, Northern Indiana Youth Football League. That board's spent a lot of time putting these rules in place, working in conjunction with USA Football. So we really feel like we've got a good thing going from a safety standpoint, and just a good football perspective, right? The kids get out there, they get to play. and they look up there, right? At our current facility now, we can see the water tower up there at the high school, and so we point up there to the kids saying that's where you want to be, and we try to build the program from there. And from our new facility, we'll still be able to see that. And so, that's where our program starts, is just getting all of those things in place to turn them over to you.
Absolutely. And, you're doing great things at that level, and you got some good people. You mentioned Ben, who's also one of our 8th grade coaches. People like that sometimes go unseen. The background people, maybe some people might call them, that are a huge part of building the program. And I want to thank you for all your efforts that you do down there. And we've had many conversations about the program and the feeder program and the Pee Wee and how it relates to the varsity and everything. And I truly believe, that's how we're going to change things here at Wawasee High School, is doing it at that level. And one thing, too, I want to point out before we go is, the health and safety of the kids, and you always have that forefront. And that goes not only in how we teach technique and fundamentals, but also the cleaning of equipment and everything. We've had to borrow your machine to clean our equipment as well. And just want to let all the parents know out there that you have your son play Pee Wee football, or daughters in some cases. They are going to be well taken care of, well coached, and build enthusiasm for the game. And so we would encourage you to get your kids out and play Pee Wee football next year. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be back with Coach John Reutebuch here on Coach's Corner in just a moment. This is 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Coach's Corner, of course, highlights the head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach John Reutebuch. And Coach, you have an incredibly busy week coming up this week. Homecoming week's always busy, but it's actually more than that this week. Tell us a little bit about how you're going to approach the week.
Okay. Originally we had talked last year about switching homecoming week a little earlier in the year. Because of the weather. Weather the last couple of years has not been very good for the fans on homecoming week, and so we were going to move it up to the Northwood game. And with all the COVID stuff going on and everything, it was decided that we would leave it where it's at, which is the Warsaw game, and the change will be made in the future. So this, as you said, this weekend we're playing Warsaw at home, and that's our rival, county rival, and that means a lot to both communities. And then on top of that, it's homecoming, which, as you alluded to, there are many events going on this week, and it's also going to be our Pink Out game. And I'll talk about Pink Out here in just a second. But as far as our schedule goes this week, this is probably the week that you really have to focus on keeping the kids concentrating on what's important, which is the game on Friday night. And, we're all for letting the kids have fun and enjoy that week. But at the end of the day, what's really important is that we go out and give our best effort and try to fight for a win. And so keeping that focus is difficult homecoming week, and every football coach can tell you that. Hopefully your kids look at it as excitement and get fired up about former athletes that come back to watch them play, and people coming out to see them on homecoming. It's a big deal. So Monday we have parent-teacher conferences that happen to fall on this Monday of homecoming week, and so we'll be practicing under the lights after some of us are going through parent-teacher conferences at the high school, and Thursday is parent-teacher conferences at the middle school level, and so we might have to adjust the schedule there a little bit too. And then we have a lot of events going on during the week, dress-up days, virtual pep session of sorts that they're gathering some things, and I don't want to give everything away that they're planning on doing, but doing the best they can to have kids enjoy and build that spirit and everything. And we got a lot of things going on this week, but again, it's trying to keep the kids focused on, we have homecoming because there's a football game Friday night, and we want to come out and give it our best.
Now, back when I wandered the halls at Wawasee, and by the way, back then the halls were made of stone because it was just a series of interlocking caves. Back when I wandered the halls at Wawasee, Principal Henry Smith would stoke as much vitriol and hatred toward the Warsaw Tigers as he possibly could. And it was just flat out, these people don't deserve to even be in the same county as you. It seems like today the kids take a little more adult view of their rivalry than they used to. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, the kids in both communities are friends. They hang out together.
Which is really different.
Yeah. And they do things together. And so, they know the kids on the other side. And, it's really that way with a lot of our communities, Northwood or Goshen. I mean, the kids know each other. They compete with each other or against each other in the off seasons. And, there are people that live in the other community, but their kids go to that school, and they're, it's a smaller world, so to speak. And so when you play the game, there's that competition. But before and after the game, it's not as us against them as it used to be. And, yeah, I remember when I first got here a long time ago, that was one of the first things that I picked up on right away is when we play Warsaw, it means something totally different. And it still has that excitement. It still has, the kids know it's Warsaw week. We were just talking to the freshmen the other day, and, they're having a good season right now. And they just played Jimtown, had a good victory against Jimtown. And Plymouth doesn't have a freshman team, and we're trying to find them another game. But it could be a situation where they don't have a game this next week. And if we don't, I said, gives you another extra week to concentrate on that next game, and you know who that is. Without pause or exception, they all yelled Warsaw. So they know what it is. And, in our community, we build that up, and that's our rival. And it's exciting to play a rival game. And, you hope it brings another level of play and passion and spirit to the game. And when it's all over, we can go back to being friends and things like that. So exciting time, exciting opportunity, and hopefully we make the most of it.
Homecoming week is always a week where there's always an additional spark. There's an additional, I don't know what you call it, what the word I'm thinking, but pep in the step maybe. And you saw that last night. I mentioned that on the radio last night. It was homecoming for Plymouth and via us, obviously. And as I'm seeing and I'm looking around, they had a good crowd. Not only that, but they had some, I don't want to say pep session. They had a big halftime performance. So you could just tell there was a little bit more of a buzz in the stands. And I'm hoping that's kind of going to be the same thing on our end as Warsaw comes to town and plays against us. But the one thing about homecoming, like Coach talked about, I really want to dial in on and really focus is focus. And you've got the dress-up days. You've got the clowning around, the goofy stuff, the all the different things. I think back in the day they used to do powder puff and stuff, and they used to have some other events at night. I think that's probably changed with COVID. I mean,
and powder puff football was really hard when we were wearing, tiger skins and lion pelts. That's when it was really hard.
Playing with the monster stone. Anyway, the theme behind it, the theme of the week is excitement, homecoming. And, like you said, Coach, you've got a lot of people coming back, probably already coming back, but homecoming, even more people want to come back because they know others that they've graduated with, and then the community come back, and they kind of get together. And they always want to watch a really good game. They want to see a good crowd. And I think it's important, even more so than the last few weeks, that our kids understand that homecoming is fun. Let's have fun. But this game is one of those things where this is what is most important this week. Executing the game plan, finding a way, fight tooth and nail, whatever it may be, to get the win. And, yeah, you talk about how it's easy. I mean, we all have cellular phones. We all have access to buddies of ours. And back in the day, you could look on online and what they're saying about you, or in the paper, what was the quote, and you get that on that bulletin board material. And now you can look on Twitter, or you can text your buddy and they'll tell you, that's what we're doing. Yeah. So it's so much different, but it takes a little bit away from that excitement. but there still is that, hey, we're buddies or we know each other. We're comrades in a sense before and after the game. But the whistle blows, that game's rolling. It's still a football game. And so I'm excited to see how our kids respond. Maybe this is what they need to have that pep in the step over the weekend, or over the weekend going into this week. The virtual press, or not press conference, but the virtual pep session will be interesting. Maybe I can tune into that too. But it's such a big week because it's more than a game. But by the end of the week, that's the game is the focal point. That's the center stage. And I really hope our kids hang on to that throughout the week and build that momentum, encouragement, excitement. And then when that ball's kicked, execute the game plan and get it done.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you remember last year, of course, with football and coaching football, we're always amazed, our female companions, that we remember everything about every game from 10 years ago. We always get that joke. But last year, we had a stretch of about 3 or 4 games where we were struggling. And we went over to Warsaw, and there was a lot of bright points that came about, and that's what we're looking for against Warsaw here at homecoming is start getting some things turned around that we haven't done in the last couple weeks. And I think you're right. I mean, playing Warsaw and it being homecoming, hopefully that'll sharpen the focus and the execution, and these guys will realize what they are capable of doing, because right now we're not playing to the level that we know as coaches they are capable of doing. And I guess that's our biggest challenge, is to make sure that we get them to see what they can be and try to get them to be the best they can be. And, that's coaching football. And you're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that have a lot of distractions in their life on top of that. And so we really got to hone in on that. And so we, Mike mentioned earlier about, senior leadership and things like that. And slowly but surely, we've been trying to transition things over to our seniors. And this is really where they got to take over. They have to take over. Good teams are led by coaches. Great teams are led by the players. And so our seniors are going to have to really step up. Their motto for this season was leave a legacy. And so I remind them, what is your legacy going to be? How are we going to finish this season and pave the way for the next group? And will you be able to look back and say, we made it better, we showed them how to do it, and so they can take it to the next level. And you may not get all the glory for doing that, but the coaching staff and the community and your parents and everything will know that you set that building block for the next level. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to turn a program around. And I've said from the get-go, it's not going to happen overnight. In this fast food world, everybody wants to have instantaneous change. And we got to build a program that goes out and competes consistently year after year, night after night, and build our numbers up and get competition going, and really that belief in their heart and their mind that they can compete with anybody. Because when it really comes down to it, there's not a whole lot of difference between the kid from Northwood, Plymouth, Warsaw, Goshen, and all the other schools we play. It comes down to a mindset. And that's something that we're really working hard to try to change, and it's going to take some time. And we had Eric Leffler on. He comes from the Pee Wee through the middle school, through our freshman program, JV on up, and that's what we're looking for. And I've seen that happen in the past with previous coaches. I mean, it's hard those first couple years. You're trying to change the mindset. You're setting expectations for the kids, and once you get that going, then you start to see change. And that's our point. That's our aim. That's our goal. And so we have a long range plan. We want to get there as fast as possible, but sometimes you're going to have bumps in the road, and it's not going to go the way you want. And a life lesson that we're trying to teach kids is overcoming adversity and that warrior grit, and don't give up, and keep plugging away and represent your school well, and all those things. And one of the things I said in my interview was I want to put a team on the field that makes the community proud. And you can do that all different ways. The way you play the game, the way you work in the community, how you carry yourself in your academics and around the other teams and supporting other athletic teams. And that's what we're trying to do here. And it's going to take time, and I hope everybody has the patience that it takes time.
Well, I love what you said. I'll say these two things as we wrap up this segment. But number one, the fast food, instantaneous gratification. I need this now. When you show the grit, the work that you put in, and you see that as you climb the ladder, the key to that is you know where you come from when you get to that result. When you start to see the successes, you can look back and say, this is all the work we put in, as opposed to, say, you're 0-4 and the next you're 9-0 the next. How'd you get there? You got sustainability. Not only accountability, sustainability, and I love the idea of leaving a legacy. And what better way to start off by leaving a legacy for your seniors moving down into your underclassmen by beating Warsaw at homecoming?
When we come back, we'll talk about the football game, Wawasee v. Warsaw, coming up Friday night, right here on Coach's Corner with Coach John Reutebuch on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Casey along with you here on Coach's Corner with Coach John Reutebuch, the head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors. Coach, a big game this week. Of course, Warsaw, always a big game for the Wawasee Warriors, but Warsaw comes in a very formidable program this year.
Sure does, and they've been a formidable program under Bart Curtis since he got there. He was able to retain the entire staff, and including his son, and bring with him 30 years of coaching experience and success at New Prairie and Mishawaka. And the Warsaw community has bought into Bart Ball, which consists of the Flexbone, which for those people out there that don't know what the Flexbone is, watch the academies, Army, Navy, Air Force, and there are teams out there that are starting to go to the Flexbone. It's kind of hearkening back to the old days where your misdirection and power football and consuming time and driving the ball down the field. It's not like a lot of college football and even NFL football these days where you see the ball flying all over the place and the spread offense and everything like that. It's hearkening back to those days of 3 yards and a cloud of dust. So
some folks even say it goes all the way back to Pop Warner, and with the inset double ends. We saw it with Whitco maybe 30 years ago. We didn't call it the Flexbone back then, but it definitely is a different style of football, no question.
Yeah, Whitco ran the wing tee, and Northwood runs the wing tee, their version of it. The Flexbone is even more compact, I guess is the good way to talk about it, where the quarterback's tighter, he's under center, and the fullback is literally a yard behind him, and it's quick hitters. And then you bring those wings around for sweeps or insert blocks. And once you spend all your time trying to stop that, then they release a few guys and throw a pass. And if you're not disciplined, and that's the key against the Flexbone, is be disciplined, do your assignment. They can catch you napping and get a guy wide open coming down the field.
Well, don't forget. Oh, go ahead.
Is that the kind of thing where it takes a long time to get the kids familiar with it because it's so intricate, but once you've got it there, it starts to feed upon itself? Absolutely.
Flexbone teams oftentimes in the beginning of the season have a lot of turnovers. Your meshes are off, your pitches are off, those kind of things. And once they get to this point of the season, they usually have it clicking. And they do. You just practice the same thing over and over again. And I have experience in that. We ran the Flexbone under Josh Ekovich for a year, and we went to that because he played for Bart Curtis at New Prairie. And so we kind of experimented with that for a year, and it is what we call A-frames, where you're just doing the quarterback fullback mesh, and then everybody has the same drill all the time and just getting good at that same thing. And then Bart, he's coached it so long, he knows when people do something to stop something, we go to the next thing, and that's already on the menu. There's no trying to figure it out or anything like that, and they're going to do that no matter what. They don't care what defense you have, what the weather's like, and it doesn't matter. This is what we're doing. If you can stop us, good for you. If you can't, then we're going to have success, and more times than not, they've had success. And this year, even with the COVID and everything, they're able to put that together, and that offense is running pretty solid right now.
Well, don't forget, and kind of what I was trying to say earlier too. You talked about the quarterback, the fullback that's right behind the wings in motion. A lot of times they want to see what the linebackers are doing. If the line shifts, sometimes you've got defensive lines that slant towards that motion, which they come back with a counter. But don't forget, the splits of the offensive linemen are more than likely 1 to 2 feet, less than that, and sometimes foot to foot. And so when you're doing that, or sometimes they might be 6 feet wide because they'll stretch the defense out, because what you're trying to do is you're reading off that nose tackle, you're reading off the defensive end, and if that guy comes down, the quarterback pulls, pitch. There's so many different ways in which you read it, but it's just so different. The good thing for us, obviously with homecoming week and Warsaw coming to town, is we will play the following week we'll play Mishawaka, who runs, if not the same, maybe a few tweaks here and there, that same offense as Bart Curtis came from Mishawaka, and his protege kind of runs that same thing. And so I guess the good thing, I don't know if you want to call it good, because it's a lot of 4-point stances from your offensive line, a lot of cut blocks, a lot of at your ankles. We've got it 2 weeks in a row. And I know that, as Coach Reutebuch is a big Notre Dame fan, Notre Dame coaches, they talk about how they don't really like playing against that because it's a lot of cut blocks. It's a lot of potential injuries. We hope that doesn't take place, but it's a little bit different at the college level because they can block downfield. Right. I think that's changed. But what I'm trying to say is it's so much different when you're in a 4-point stance and you're firing off, because what they're trying to do is just throw you off a little bit so that guy can squeeze through and get to the second level.
So Warsaw brings the flex bone on Friday night. What does Wawasee need to do to have success, knowing that this unusual style of football is coming to our field?
Well, you can't do the same thing over and over again because they'll just exploit that. And so you got to try to keep the offense off balance by changing up how you attack it. And because if you attack it a certain way, like I said before, they have a menu already. Okay, if they're taking this away, this is what we're doing next. And it may be an adjustment of running an option one hole over. It might be, okay, we're going to fake the dive and then we're going to pitch it. There's all kinds of alternatives off of that. And so we're going to have to keep them guessing what we're going to do. And you really have to have solid defensive line play, and your linebackers and your support in the back end have to be super disciplined and not get caught in the wash. Get off blocks and get to where they need to be. And that's how you stop the flex bone. And it's time consuming. So our offensive opportunities might be limited. And so when we have the ball, best way to stop an offense that is time consuming and tough to stop is keep the ball on offense. Mm-hmm. And so that's another strategy we're going to enlist is we want to possess the ball. And sure, we'll take the big strike score, but we need to move the chains, and we need to give our defensive players a chance to not play on the short field and not be out on the field for, I think, against a couple games ago, they had a 9-minute drive that ended with a touchdown, and that's incredible. A high school team can maintain a drive that long.
I think he even said in his post-game comments, don't mean to interrupt, but I think he said, he goes, I didn't realize when I looked at the clock that we had taken that much time off, because his focus is one play at a time, one play at a time. Next thing you know, 10, 12, 15 play drive, 9 minutes off the clock, touchdown. And that's very demoralizing for a defense. And you got to turn around and you've got to respond as an offense. And if you don't, they go back out and they potentially do it again.
You're facing it again, yeah. So it does present some big challenges. And, Mike's right. We do face it 2 weeks in a row, even though they might emphasize a different part of how they attack it, it's the same exact offense. They teach the same thing. Matter of fact, they probably collaborate, have collaborated, in strategies against other teams, but it's the same exact thing. And so we will have that continuity. But it's a hard offense. It's a challenge to face, and we're going to have to rise to the occasion.
You had a number of players with receptions last night. Your diversity among individuals catching the ball was better than it's been. That's got to be refreshing for you going into the game with Warsaw, because that ability to have multiple targets is going to make it more difficult for them.
Absolutely. We want to get the ball in several kids' hands. We have some kids that can make plays, and we've shown the potential of moving the ball between the 20s. Now we got to get good at actually putting it in the end zone. And so Parker Young had a good night throwing the football. He might have missed a couple throws, but for the most part, he was on target, and our playmakers were making good plays and just sustaining drives, not getting penalties, not giving up a sack or turnovers. If we can avoid those things, I look forward to seeing when this offense finally opens up and explodes, because there is a lot of potential and a lot of things to keep teams off balance with, because we have confidence in our running backs, and we have confidence in our receivers, and we have confidence in our quarterback. And, the line is a work in progress. And if we can get those guys working as a unit and eliminate those mistakes, look out.
Two things. Last night, I thought that the offensive line, that is, did a nice job. Plymouth sent a lot of A-gap blitzes between this. Pretty much, if you understand the concept of the game, you have a center, and to his right and left, they were blitzing the A-gap a lot. They had a couple of delay blitzes. I think that, well, I don't think, but based on what I saw, they did a nice job picking it up, and Parker had to roll out left or right. Good strikes. I think Cam Salazar had 4 catches for over 100 yards. Beer had 3 catches for in the 60s. Meek had 3 catches. I think Ringler had a couple of drops, but
Beer had a couple.
Yeah. So along those lines, you've got your playmakers, those 4 receivers out there. Young had time. He was able to throw the ball. A lot of times we said, nice pitch, nice catch. You'll take 5, 6, 7 yards, but it's building to that. And then getting those guys in open field. So a couple of those longer rolled plays, when he hit Salazar on that really long run he had after catch, I think it was a 40, 50-yard reception, yards after catch, the yak yards. He got down the sideline, and that was just him making a play, getting in the open field, and that's what we need to see more. And I know you talk about that, and getting that in their hands will help that. And then you add that run game that you're continually working on. I mean, that can be a great combo, and that can really do some damage to some teams, but it's getting it to that point where it can be difficult for teams to stop. You can't be a one-sided team, as you know that.
Yeah.
But even though we didn't run the ball as well last night or run it as much, we still were able to throw the ball and be effective in throwing it.
Yeah, and you go into a game with a game plan, and our game plan, we had narrowed it down to just a few plays and tried to get really good at that. Yeah. But when you turn the ball over twice, all of a sudden the game plan just goes out the window. Yeah. And now you
drop 14-0 after those 2 turnovers.
Yes, and so it was at that point we decided that in order to get back in the game and what they're giving us, we're gonna have to throw the ball. And so we threw the ball a lot more than probably we have been, and then you turn right around, that opens up the run game, and that opens up some opportunities. Nate Larson, we got him back, and he looked pretty good running the football last night, and Don Blair did a nice job. And you talk about the protection on offense, the pass protection was very good. And the running backs have a big part in pass protection, and they did a good job of picking up some of those blitzes. And, we have designed sprint out plays to we've had a lot of teams blitzing us. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a couple ways you handle that. We did a nice job picking up the blitzes, and then we also can roll him out, which he's a threat on the perimeter if he wants to take off and get the ball in the hands of our playmakers in space. And, that's our whole philosophy on offense, is to be multi-formational, get the ball in a lot of different kids' hands so you can't focus on one guy and one formation, and it's really the opposite of the flex bone. And so, again, once we get those things clicking, and you saw it with the first drive of the second half. I mean, we were running this way, we're throwing here,
And
we're
you kind of
throwing
sped
there.
up, got on the ball faster, throwing
Yep.
the defense off.
Yep.
You kind of took advantage of that, and then fortunately we weren't able to get in the end zone.
And so, the average person that maybe doesn't know football, they're struggling, they're not doing very well on offense, but to somebody that knows football, there are a lot of positives out there that are happening. It's just putting it all together. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Offense is like a choreographed dance. And if you don't have all 11 guys together doing it right, then you're going to struggle. And that's where we are right now. Defense is a little easier because you get your read and you go, and there's a couple good defensive players that can really help you out if guys are out of position. But offense takes a little bit more time, and we're not there yet. We're showing spots here and there, and it's getting the kids to see that hey, we're not that far away. Make a play here, make a play there. It's all different. And so that's where we got to get to.
Coach John Reutebuch of the Wawasee Warriors here on Coach's Corner. Coach, thanks for being with us. We hope you'll be with us Friday night as the Wawasee Warriors host the Warsaw Tigers here at Warrior Field. Broadcast time 6:30, game time 7 o'clock. This has been Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 93.7themix.com, WRWTLP, Syracuse.